Ambassador Vexstar stood before the great communication array on his homeworld of Keltos Prime. His blue-scaled hands shook as he prepared to send what might be his people's final message to the galaxy. Behind him, the capital city burned under orbital bombardment from the Ravok Empire's war fleet. The Kelani had always been a peaceful people. For 3,000 years they had built trade routes between distant worlds and shared knowledge freely with any species they met, their greatest weapons were words, and their strongest shields were treaties. Now those treaties lay broken, and their words had fallen on deaf ears. Vexstar activated the deep space transmitter and began his desperate plea. His voice carried across the void to every known civilization in their sector of the galaxy. This is Ambassador Vexstar of the Kelani Federation sending an emergency distress call to all civilized species. Our confederation of 12 worlds faces complete destruction at the hands of the Ravok Empire. We are a peaceful trading people with no military force capable of defending against their war machine. The ambassador paused as another explosion shook the building. Through the massive windows he could see Ravok drop ships landing in the plaza below. Their soldiers poured out like black metal insects ready to consume everything in their path. The Ravok have already destroyed our defensive fleet and taken 4 of our outer worlds. Their military doctrine appears to be total annihilation of all life on planets they cannot use for resources. We estimate 2 billion Kelani civilians have already been killed. Vexstar's voice cracked with emotion, but he continued his broadcast. He had to make someone listen. Someone had to care enough to help them. We offer our complete technological database to any species willing to provide military assistance. This includes our faster-than-light communication systems, our medical knowledge, and our detailed star charts of this entire galactic arm. We also offer permanent trade agreements and access to our established shipping routes. The building shook again, and Vexstar could hear weapons fire getting closer. His security team had already fallen back to the inner chambers. He probably had minutes before Ravok soldiers reached the communication center. Please understand that we are not asking for conquest or expansion of your territory. We simply want to survive as a people. The Ravok Empire has made it clear they intend to use our worlds as mining operations after eliminating all existing life. This is not a territorial dispute but an extinction event. Several responses had already come back over the communication array, but none offered real hope. The Zephyrian Republic said they were too far away to provide timely assistance. The Alterian Union demanded exclusive rights to 3 Kelani star systems in exchange for limited defensive support. The merchant guilds offered to evacuate some civilians for an enormous fee but would not engage Ravok forces directly. Every response was the same pattern. Either the distance was too great, or the price was too high, or the military commitment was too small to matter. The galaxy watched their destruction like it was entertainment rather than genocide. Vexstar adjusted the transmitter to boost signal strength and sent his message again on all frequencies. Maybe someone out there would have both the power and the will to help them. Maybe someone still believed that innocent people deserved protection. The Ravok war doctrine relies on overwhelming force applied swiftly across multiple worlds. They use mobile fortress ships that can crack planetary defenses and establish orbital supremacy within hours. Their ground forces strip all useful resources before moving to the next target system. He transmitted tactical data about Ravok fleet movements and weapon capabilities. Perhaps some military force could use this intelligence even if they arrive too late to save the Kelani homeworld. Our analysis suggests the Ravok will complete their occupation of our territory within 30 standard days. After that they will likely expand toward the Centauri trade route or the outer spiral colonies. Any species in those regions should consider this a direct threat to their own security. The weapons fire was getting much closer now. Vexstar could hear his security team shouting orders in the hallway outside. They were fighting a delaying action to give him more time to transmit. We have children in our evacuation shelters who have never seen war. We have teachers and artists and engineers who dedicated their lives to building rather than destroying. These people do not deserve to die because they chose peace over violence. Vextar's voice grew stronger as he thought about everyone depending on him. Every family hiding in the underground shelters. Every child asking their parents when the bad ships would go away. Every elder who had lived long enough to see their peaceful civilization crumble. If there is any species listening who values life over profit and justice over convenience, please respond immediately. We will share everything we have built over 3 millennia in exchange for the chance to rebuild somewhere safe. The door to the communication center exploded inward and black-armored Ravik soldiers stormed into the room. Vextar kept transmitting, even as red laser sights painted his chest. This is likely my final transmission. The Ravik have reached our capital. Remember us as a people who chose to build bridges between worlds rather than weapons of war. Remember that we died asking for help rather than seeking revenge. Just as the lead Ravik soldier raised his weapon, an unexpected response crackled. Through the communication array, the signal was weak and came from a distant system marked only as Sol 3 in their star charts. Kelani vessel, this is Sol 3 Control responding to your distress call. We have received your coordinates and tactical data. Assistance is being prepared for immediate departure. The voice was strange, with an odd accent Vextar had never heard before. The signal quality suggested the transmission came from very far away, but somehow reached them faster than should have been possible with known technology. Sol 3 Control, please identify your species and estimated arrival time. We may not be able to maintain orbital communications much longer. There was a brief pause before the response came back. The voice sounded almost amused, which seemed impossible given the desperate situation. Species identification is human. Arrival time is 18 hours. Maintain defensive positions where possible. Help is coming. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Vextar staring at the Ravik soldiers who had stopped advancing when they heard the exchange. Their commander spoke into his communicator in the harsh Ravik language before turning back toward the ambassador. Vextar had never heard of humans before, but 18 hours seemed impossible. No known species could cross the vast distances between star systems that quickly. Either these humans possessed technology far beyond current galactic standards, or they were much closer than their signal suggested. The Ravik commander gestured with his weapon, and Vextar stepped away from the transmitter. As they led him toward the exit, he wondered who these mysterious humans were and what kind of help they could possibly provide against the unstoppable Ravik war machine. Captain Rex Carvin stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the blue-green world of Kaltos Prime grow larger on the main screen. His ship had traveled farther from Earth than any human vessel before, and his crew of 200 volunteers represented the best soldiers Earth could provide. The journey had taken 18 hours, exactly as promised, but not because of superior engine technology. The Retribution had been stationed at a forward observation post 3 systems away when the Kelani distress call reached Earth. Humans had been watching Ravik expansion for months and waiting for the right moment to act. Captain, we are receiving multiple hails from the planet's surface and several orbital stations, reported Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. They seem very excited about our arrival. Corvin nodded and activated the main viewer. The face of a blue-scaled humanoid appeared on screen with large golden eyes that seemed both hopeful and desperate. This was obviously Ambassador Vextar from the distress transmission. Unknown vessel, this is Ambassador Vextar of the Kelani Federation. We cannot express our gratitude for your swift response to our call for assistance. We had prepared a diplomatic reception and formal welcome ceremony to honor your arrival. The captain studied the alien's face carefully. He had read the psychological profiles prepared by Earth's xenobiology team during the journey. The Kelani were peaceful traders who resolved conflicts through negotiation and compromise. They had no experience with species that preferred direct action over lengthy discussions. Ambassador Vextar, this is Captain Rex Corvin of the Human Expeditionary Force. We appreciate your hospitality, but we do not have time for ceremonies. Please provide detailed tactical information about current Ravik positions and civilian evacuation status. The ambassador's expression showed confusion at Corvin's blunt response. Behind Vextar, several other Kelani officials whispered among themselves with obvious concern. Captain Corvin, we had hoped to begin with formal diplomatic protocols and discussion of terms for any military assistance. Our government has prepared generous compensation packages for any species willing to provide defensive support. Corvin felt his jaw tighten with impatience. These people were facing extinction and they wanted to hold meetings about compensation packages. Every minute wasted in diplomatic pleasantries meant more civilian casualties. Ambassador, we are not here to negotiate terms or provide defensive support. We are here to eliminate the Ravok threat permanently. Please transmit all available intelligence on enemy fleet positions, command structure, and strategic objectives immediately. The bridge of the Retribution fell silent as the crew watched their captains exchange with the aliens. Everyone understood that first contact with a new species should involve careful diplomatic considerations, but they also understood that diplomacy was a luxury they could not afford. Captain, your response is somewhat concerning to our leadership. When we requested assistance, we assumed any military intervention would focus on protecting our remaining worlds rather than aggressive action against Ravok forces. Corvin activated a tactical display showing the current situation in Kelani space. Red indicators marked Ravok fleet positions while blue dots showed remaining civilian populations. The enemy had complete orbital supremacy around 6 worlds and was approaching 3 more. Ambassador, look at your tactical situation. The Ravok have overwhelming numerical superiority and mobility advantage. Defensive strategies will only delay your extinction by a few weeks. The only viable solution is to destroy their ability to continue offensive operations. The Kelani officials behind Vextar spoke in urgent whispers while pointing at data displays. Their body language suggested growing alarm at human intentions rather than relief at receiving help. Captain Corvin, we appreciate your analysis, but the Kelani Federation has always resolved conflicts through peaceful means. We were hoping for assistance in negotiating a ceasefire or establishing protected zones for civilian evacuation. Corvin realized that these aliens fundamentally misunderstood both the nature of their enemy and the type of assistance they had requested. The Ravok Empire was not a civilization that negotiated ceasefires or respected civilian evacuation zones. Ambassador, the Ravok military doctrine is based on total resource extraction following complete elimination of existing populations. They do not negotiate with species they consider inferior, and they do not recognize civilian non-combatant status. Peace talks are not an option. The captain gestured for his tactical officer to display detailed intelligence reports about Ravok conquest. Patterns, the data showed systematic extermination across 12 previous civilizations over the past 50 years. Our intelligence indicates that Ravok forces will complete occupation of your remaining worlds within 72 hours unless their command structure is disrupted. This requires direct assault on their mobile fortress platforms and elimination of their fleet commanders. Vextar studied the human intelligence reports with growing horror. The level of detail suggested that humans had been observing Ravok operations for an extended period without intervening to help previous victims. Captain, this intelligence is remarkably comprehensive. How long have your people been aware of Ravok expansion activities? And why did you not offer assistance to other species facing similar threats? Kovam had expected this question, but the honest answer would probably terrify the Kelani even more than current circumstances. Humans had been tracking Ravok movements because they represented exactly the type of challenge that Earth's military forces had been hoping to encounter. We have monitored Ravok activities for approximately 18 months. Previous civilizations either did not request assistance or were conquered before we could respond effectively. Your distress call provided clear coordinates and tactical data that allowed us to plan appropriate intervention. The ambassador's expression suggested he understood. There was more to the story, but decided not to pursue the question further. His people needed help regardless of human motivations for providing it. Captain, what specific type of intervention do you propose? Our remaining defensive forces are minimal and our civilian population has no experience with military operations. Corvin activated a strategic display showing projected battle plans. The human approach involved simultaneous strikes against multiple Ravik positions using tactics that made the peaceful Kelani visibly uncomfortable. We will target their mobile command platforms first to disrupt coordination between fleet elements. Secondary objectives include their resource processing facilities and supply depot stations. Tertiary targets are individual warships attempting to retreat or regroup. The tactical presentation showed human vessels deliberately ramming damaged Ravik ships rather than allowing them to escape. Other scenarios depicted boarding actions designed to capture rather than destroy enemy vessels. Captain, your battle plans seem extremely aggressive. Are you certain this level of violence is necessary? Perhaps a demonstration of superior technology might convince Ravik commanders to withdraw voluntarily. Corvin realized that the Kelani still believed warfare was primarily about displays of strength rather than application of overwhelming force. They thought enemies could be convinced to stop fighting through impressive demonstrations rather than complete defeat. Ambassador, the Ravik Empire has conquered 47 star systems over 50 years. They have never retreated voluntarily, and they have never negotiated with inferior species. Demonstrations of technology will only prompt them to call for reinforcements. The bridge communication system activated and Lieutenant Torres reported multiple Ravik vessels approaching the outer system boundary. The enemy had detected human arrival and was moving to intercept before further assistance could arrive. Captain, we have confirmed contact with 12 Ravok heavy cruisers and what appears to be a Fortress-class command vessel. They are broadcasting surrender demands to all ships in the system. Kovan smiled grimly as he watched enemy formations on the tactical display. The Ravok were approaching exactly as human intelligence had predicted. They expected quick victory against technologically inferior opponents who would panic under pressure. Ambassador, you are about to see why humans do not negotiate with species that threaten innocent civilians. All Kelani vessels should maintain safe distance from the combat zone. As the Retribution moved toward the approaching Ravik fleet, Vexstar finally understood what his desperate call for help had actually summoned to their peaceful corner of the galaxy. War Marshal Thandis stood in the command center of his massive dreadnought, Bone Crusher, and studied the tactical displays with satisfaction. His fleet of 300 vessels had conquered 47 star systems without a single defeat, and the pathetic Kelani would soon become number 48. The Ravok Empire had built its power on simple principles that had proven successful across 5 decades of expansion. Overwhelming force applied swiftly broke enemy resistance. Terror tactics prevented civilian populations from organizing effective resistance. Complete resource extraction maximized the value of each conquest. War Marshal, we are detecting unknown vessels in the inner system near the primary Kelani world, reported his intelligence officer, Commander Grekmal. Initial scans suggest approximately 12 ships of unknown configuration. Thandis examined the sensor data with mild interest. Desperate civilizations often called for help from distant allies when facing Ravik conquest. These allies usually provided token resistance before withdrawing when they realized the futility of opposing superior force. What species identification do we have on these unknown vessels? And what is their estimated military capability compared to our forward elements? Commander Grekmal manipulated the tactical display to show detailed scans of the mysterious ships. Their design was unlike anything in the Ravik database of known civilizations, but their size suggested they posed no serious threat to Ravik superiority. Species identification shows as human from a system designated Sol 3. No previous contact recorded in our intelligence files. Estimated military capability appears minimal based on vessel size and apparent crew complement. The War Marshal had never heard of humans, but that was not unusual. The galaxy contained thousands of minor species that occasionally interfered in Ravik operations before learning better. Most withdrew after losing a few ships to superior Ravik firepower. Order forward elements to broadcast standard surrender demands to all vessels in the system. If these humans withdraw immediately, they will be permitted to depart unharmed. If they attempt interference, they will be destroyed along with the Kelani. The forward elements of his fleet moved toward the inner system with practiced efficiency. 12 heavy cruisers and 2 assault carriers should be more than sufficient to eliminate whatever token resistance these unknown aliens might provide. Thandis watched the tactical display as his ships approached the human vessels. Standard Ravok doctrine called for an overwhelming display of force designed to break enemy morale before actual combat became necessary. Most species surrendered when they saw the size disparity. War Marshal, the human vessels are not responding to our surrender demands. They appear to be accelerating toward our forward elements rather than withdrawing to safe distance. This was mildly interesting but not particularly concerning. Some species chose to make futile gestures of defiance before accepting inevitable defeat. The Ravok fleet would simply destroy them quickly and continue with planetary conquest operations. Order our forward commanders to eliminate the human vessels with minimum expenditure of ammunition. We want to conserve resources for the surface bombardment phase. The first engagement began exactly as expected, with Ravok cruisers opening fire at maximum range using their superior weapon systems. Heavy plasma bolts crossed space toward the approaching human ships, while point defense systems prepared to intercept any return fire, but something was wrong with the tactical display. The human vessels had not slowed down or changed course when Ravok weapons locked onto them. Instead, they continued accelerating directly toward the Ravok formation as if they welcomed the incoming fire. War Marshal, the human ships are not attempting evasive maneuvers. They appear to be charging directly into our weapons fire while broadcasting some kind of audio transmission. Thandis ordered the transmission to be played over the command center speakers. A voice with a strange accent spoke an accented galactic standard with a tone that made his scales crawl with unease. Ravok vessels, this is Captain Rex Corvin of the Human Expeditionary Force. Your mistake was thinking we came here to fight a war. We came here to end one. The War Marshal stared at the tactical display as human ships continued their impossible charge directly into the teeth of concentrated Ravok firepower. Several had taken direct hits that should have crippled them, but they maintained course and speed. Commander, what is the status of our forward elements? Why have they not eliminated these human vessels yet? Grekmal worked frantically at his console, trying to make sense of the sensor readings. The battle was developing in ways that violated everything they understood about space combat tactics and alien psychology. War Marshal, our cruisers report multiple direct hits on human vessels, but the targets are not behaving as expected. They continue advancing even after suffering what should be fatal damage to primary systems. One of the human ships had lost its main engines and was venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches, but instead of retreating or requesting assistance, it actually accelerated using auxiliary thrusters. The damaged vessel was on a collision course with the lead Ravok cruiser. All ships concentrate fire on the damaged human vessel. Do not allow it to reach ramming distance. The concentrated firepower of 6 Ravok cruisers focused on the approaching human ship, but it refused to die. Secondary explosions tore through its hull and weapon systems went offline, but it kept coming with the persistence of a guided missile. When it finally struck the Ravok cruiser, the explosion was visible to the naked eye from the command bridge of the Bone Crusher. Both vessels disappeared in a brilliant flash that left debris scattered across several thousand kilometers of space. War Marshal, we have lost the Fang of Conquest to human ramming attack. This appears to be a deliberate tactic rather than desperation. The other human vessels are continuing their assault. Thandis had fought dozens of different species across 5 decades of conquest, but he had never encountered an enemy that deliberately sacrificed ships as weapons. The psychological impact on his crews was immediate and devastating. Order all forward elements to maintain maximum distance from human vessels. Use long-range weapons only until we can analyze their tactical doctrine. But the humans had no intention of allowing the Ravok fleet to maintain safe distance. 3 more human ships broke through the defensive formation, using unpredictable maneuvers that seemed to ignore damage to their own vessels. The lead Human ship targeted the Bone Crusher directly and broadcast another transmission that made Thandis question everything he thought he understood about galactic warfare. War Marshal Thandis, we know who you are, and we know what you have done to 47 innocent civilizations. Today that ends. Today you learn what happens when you threaten people under human protection. The War Marshal realized that these humans had been studying Ravok operations for much longer than anyone suspected. They knew his name and his ship, and his conquest record. This was not a chance encounter, but a planned intervention. How do they know my identity? How do they know our operational history? Commander, I want immediate analysis of human intelligence capabilities. But Commander Grekmal was staring at his tactical display with an expression of growing horror. The remaining human ships were not fighting like any known species. They moved through space like predators hunting prey rather than soldiers following doctrine. War Marshal, the human vessels appear to be targeting our command and control systems specifically. They are not attempting to capture territory or resources. They seem focused entirely on eliminating our ability to coordinate fleet operations. New human ship appeared on the tactical display, moving faster than should have been possible with known propulsion technology. This vessel was larger than the others and broadcast identification as UES Retribution with Captain Rex Corven commanding. War Marshal, incoming transmission from the human command vessel. They are demanding immediate surrender of all Ravok forces in this system. Thandis had never surrendered to anyone in 50 years of conquest, but watching the human ships hunt. His cruisers like pack predators made him wonder if today might be different. These beings fought with a savage joy that his conquest-hardened warriors had never encountered. The transmission from Captain Koven contained a simple message that would haunt Thandis for the rest of his life. War Marshal, you wanted to harvest this system. Instead, you are going to feed it. Sergeant Elena Vasquez checked her equipment one final time as the human transport ship approached the massive Ravok orbital command station. Her strike team of 50 soldiers represented the most experienced ground combat specialists Earth could provide for this mission. The orbital station housed 3,000 Ravok soldiers and automated defense systems designed to repel armies. Previous intelligence suggested that direct assault would require at least 10,000 troops with heavy armor support. But humans did not fight like other species. Listen up, people, Vasquez addressed her team over the communication system. The Ravok think this station is impregnable because they built it to stop conventional attacks. They have never faced an enemy that fights the way we do. The sergeant studied the tactical display showing the station's layout. Massive armor plating protected all obvious entry points. Point defense turrets covered every approach route. Internal sensors monitored all corridors and chambers. It was a fortress designed by military engineers who understood siege warfare. Rodriguez and Martinez will take Alpha Squad through the waste processing systems. Johnson and Lee will lead Bravo Squad through the reactor cooling vents. I will take Charlie Squad through the atmospheric processors. The plan sounded insane to anyone familiar with the station's environmental hazards. The waste processing systems contained corrosive chemicals that would kill most known species within minutes. The reactor cooling vents were flooded with radiation levels that required specialized shielding. The atmospheric processors operated at temperatures that could cook flesh, but humans had evolved on a world where everything was designed to kill them. Earth's environment had shaped them into creatures that could survive conditions other species considered uninhabitable. What the Ravok saw as impassable barriers, humans saw as inconvenient obstacles. Remember that our job is not just to capture the station, but to break Ravok morale throughout this system. Every enemy soldier who survives today will spread stories about human capabilities. We want those stories to be terrifying. The transport ship docked with the station's outer hull using magnetic clamps and cutting tools. Within minutes, the human strike teams had breached the armor plating and disappeared into the station's internal systems like ghosts. General Crester commanded the Ravok garrison from the central command center deep within the station. His 3,000 soldiers occupied defensive positions throughout the structure while Automated systems monitored every possible entry point. No enemy force had ever successfully penetrated a Ravok orbital fortress. General, we are detecting unauthorized entry at docking port 7. Automated defenses are engaging unknown intruders, but sensor readings are inconsistent. Crester examined the tactical display with growing confusion. The sensors showed breaches at the docking port, but no corresponding movement through adjacent corridors. Either the detection systems were malfunctioning or the intruders had somehow vanished after entering the station. Deploy security teams to investigate the breach point. I want immediate identification of the intruder species and assessment of their capabilities. But the security teams found only empty corridors and sealed blast doors. The cutting tools used to breach the hull were still active, but there was no sign of whoever had used them. It was as if the intruders had simply disappeared into the station itself. Sergeant Vasquez led her team through the atmospheric processing chambers while monitoring communications from the other squads. The environment was exactly as hostile as expected, with temperatures that would have killed most aliens instantly and chemical vapors that burned exposed skin. Her soldiers moved through the deadly maze with practiced efficiency while their environmental suits protected them from the worst hazards. The Ravok had never imagined that any species would be capable of surviving in areas they considered uninhabitable. Charlie Squad, this is Alpha Squad. We have reached the primary data storage level. Beginning information extraction procedures. Now, Rodriguez and his team had infiltrated the station's computer core by crawling through waste processing tubes that the Ravok considered impossible to navigate. Their environmental suits were corroded and damaged, but they had reached their objective without triggering any alarms. Copy Alpha Squad. Bravo Squad, report your status. Johnson's voice crackled with radiation interference from the reactor section. Bravo Squad has reached the power distribution center. We are in position to cut primary systems on your command. General Crester studied his tactical displays with growing alarm as reports flooded in from throughout the station. Security teams were finding evidence of infiltration in areas that should have been completely inaccessible to any known life form. How are these intruders moving through our environmental hazard zones? No species in our database can survive those conditions without massive life support equipment. His intelligence officer, Major Vethrin, worked frantically to correlate sensor readings with known alien capabilities. General, the radiation levels in Sector 7 would kill most species within minutes. The chemical concentrations in Sector 12 are lethal to any carbon-based life form. Yet we are detecting movement in both areas. The first direct contact came when a Ravok patrol encountered 3 human soldiers in a maintenance corridor. The engagement lasted exactly 43 seconds and ended, with all 6 Ravok warriors dead, while the humans continued toward their objective without apparent injury. General, we have confirmed contact with human ground forces. They appear to be using primitive blade weapons alongside advanced technology. Our standard armor provides insufficient protection against their close combat techniques. Crester reviewed the combat footage with disbelief. The human soldiers had moved through his warriors like predators rather than combatants. They used the environment itself as a weapon and fought with a coordination that suggested extensive experience in similar operations. Deploy heavy weapons teams to all critical areas. These humans cannot be invulnerable to concentrated firepower. But the heavy weapons teams never reached their assigned positions. Human soldiers appeared from impossible locations and eliminated them using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. They struck from ventilation shafts and emerged through floor gratings like creatures from nightmare. Sergeant Vasquez reached the command center level and established communication with her scattered teams. The operation was proceeding exactly as planned, with minimal casualties and maximum psychological impact on enemy forces. All squads, this is Charlie Actual. We have reached the primary objective. Begin final phase operations now. The final phase involves simultaneous strikes against the station's most critical systems while capturing key Ravok officers for interrogation. Human soldiers emerged from dozens of locations throughout the station. Like a coordinated swarm of predators, General Krester found himself surrounded by human soldiers who had somehow materialized in his supposedly secure command center. His personal guards lay unconscious on the floor while these terrifying aliens studied his tactical displays with professional interest. General Krester, I am Sergeant Elena Vasquez of the Human Expeditionary Force. You are now a prisoner of war, and will be treated according to the standards established by civilized species. The general stared at the human soldier with a mixture of fear and confusion. She was smaller than most Ravok warriors, but moved with a confidence that suggested she considered him no threat whatsoever. How did you penetrate our defenses? This station was designed to be impregnable against any known assault technique. Vasquez smiled with an expression that made Krester's blood run cold. General, you built this station to stop armies. We are not an army. We are hunters, and you forgot that prey animals do not get to choose the terrain where predators find them. The interrogation that followed broke the captured Ravok officers within hours. Not through torture or threats, but through simple terror at human persistence and capability. They revealed the locations of hidden supply bases and reinforcement fleets because they could not imagine resisting creatures who fought like living nightmares. General, your high command will want to know what happened here today. Make sure they understand that humans do not just fight wars. We end them permanently. As Ravok prisoners were prepared for transport, Vasquez realized that word of human capabilities would spread throughout the enemy empire faster than any military intelligence. Every survivor would carry stories that would make future enemies hesitate before threatening innocent civilians. Admiral Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Devastator watching hyperspace distortions appear throughout the Kelani system. His main battle fleet had arrived just in time to face the Ravok Empire's ultimate response to human interference. The reinforcements emerging from faster-than-light travel represented the largest military force the Ravok had ever assembled in a single location. 200 heavy warships surrounded a massive structure that dwarfed even the largest human vessels. Admiral, we are receiving identification signals from the approaching Ravok fleet. That massive structure appears to be their legendary planet. Killer-designated Void Hammer. Intelligence estimates suggest it can crack continental plates and render entire worlds uninhabitable. Stone studied the tactical display with the calm expression of someone who had spent decades preparing for exactly this type of confrontation. Earth's military planners had always known that humanity would eventually face opponents with superior technology and overwhelming numbers. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, please open a channel to Ambassador Vexstar on the surface. I want to explain our situation before we begin final operations. The blue-scaled face of the Kelani diplomat appeared on the main screen with an expression of obvious terror. Behind him, the emergency government bunker showed signs of desperate preparation for planetary evacuation. Admiral Stone, we are detecting massive Ravok reinforcements entering our system. Our analysis suggests they have brought enough firepower to sterilize every world in our confederation. Perhaps it would be best if your forces withdrew before the situation becomes hopeless. The Admiral had expected this response from the peaceful Kelani, who still did not understand the type of species they had summoned to their aid. Humans did not withdraw when facing superior numbers because superior numbers meant the enemy had more to lose. Ambassador, your people called for help, and we responded to that call. Humans do not abandon allies when the situation becomes difficult. We especially do not abandon them when facing genocidal enemies who threaten innocent civilians. Vexstar studied Stone's expression with growing alarm. Admiral, your forces have already demonstrated remarkable courage and capability, but the odds against you are now insurmountable. The Void Hammer alone possesses enough firepower to destroy your entire fleet. Stone activated his personal command display and began reviewing battle plans that had been prepared during the journey to Kelani space. Every scenario had been analyzed and every contingency had been considered by Earth's finest strategic minds. Ambassador, I need you to understand something about the species you requested assistance from. Humans evolved on what we call a death world where everything was designed to kill everything else. We did not just survive that environment, we conquered it completely. The Admiral gestured toward the tactical display showing human fleet positions. Relative to the approaching Ravok Armada, we spent 10,000 years learning to fight against impossible odds because anything less than total victory meant extinction. On the Void Hammer, Supreme War Leader Korthax reviewed intelligence reports about human capabilities with growing unease. His massive fortress ship had never faced defeat in 3 decades of operation, but these unknown aliens had already demonstrated tactics that defied conventional military wisdom. War Leader, the human fleet appears to be maintaining position rather than withdrawing as expected. They have approximately 60 vessels against our force of 200 plus the Void Hammer. Their tactical position is hopeless. Korthax had conquered 12 different civilizations using the threat of planetary destruction. Most species surrendered immediately when they realized the Void Hammer could render their worlds uninhabitable. Even the most stubborn enemies withdrew when facing certain defeat. Open communications with the human command vessel. Offer them safe passage out of the system in exchange for non-interference with our colony extermination operations. The response from Admiral Stone came back within minutes and contained a message that made every Ravok officer on the bridge question their understanding of galactic warfare. Supreme War Leader Korthax, this is Admiral Marcus Stone of the Human Battle Fleet. We reject your offer of safe passage. We came here to protect innocent people, and we will not leave until that mission is complete. The transmission continued with tactical data that revealed the true scope of human military preparation. Our intelligence services have been tracking Ravok expansion for 18 months. We know the location of your home systems, your supply routes, and your command structure. Korthax stared at the communication display as Stone's voice continued with quiet confidence. Today we eliminate your ability to threaten peaceful civilizations permanently. Today the Ravok Empire learns what happens when they attack people under human protection. War Leader, the human admiral, appears to be broadcasting tactical information to every ship in their fleet. They are not just refusing to surrender, but actually preparing to attack our superior force. The Supreme War Leader had never encountered an enemy that welcomed overwhelming odds as an opportunity rather than a death sentence. Human psychology appeared to operate on principles that made no sense to any rational military commander. All ships concentrate firepower on the human fleet. Deploy the Voidhammer's main weapon system and prepare for planetary bombardment. These humans will watch their new allies die before we finish them. But Admiral Stone had no intention of allowing the Ravok to threaten colony civilians. The human battle fleet moved into attack formation, using tactics that had been refined through centuries of warfare against impossible enemies. All ships, this is Admiral Stone. Today we show the galaxy why peaceful species call us for help when they face extinction. Today we demonstrate what Deathworlders do to bullies who threaten the innocent. The battle began with the Ravok fleet opening fire at maximum range using their superior weapon systems. But human ships did not respond with conventional tactics. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the enemy formation while broadcasting. A sound that made Ravok warriors question their sanity. Human crews were singing battle songs as they charged into certain death. They sang about heroes and glory and protecting those who could not protect themselves. They sang like warriors who had found exactly the type of fight they had been born for. War Leader, the human vessels are not attempting to avoid our weapons. Fire. They appear to be using damaged ships as guided missiles while continuing their assault. This tactical doctrine makes no logical sense. Korthax watched human ships ram his cruisers while their crews sang songs of victory rather than death. These beings fought with a joy that transformed hopeless odds into glorious opportunity. They welcomed death if it meant protecting innocent people. 3 human vessels broke through the Ravok defensive formation and began targeting the Void Hammer directly. The massive fortress ship had never been successfully attacked by conventional forces, but these humans moved like predators that had found their perfect prey. Supreme War Leader incoming transmission from the lead human assault vessel. They are demanding immediate surrender of all Ravok forces in this system and every other system they currently occupy. The transmission came from Captain Rex Corvin, aboard the UES Retribution. His ship was heavily damaged and venting atmosphere, but his voice carried absolute confidence in ultimate victory. War Leader Korthax, your empire has spent 50 years terrorizing peaceful civilizations. Today that ends. Today you learn that some species fight harder when the odds are impossible. The Void Hammer's main weapon fired at the approaching human ships, but they continued their assault even after taking direct hits that should have vaporized them. They fought like creatures that had evolved specifically to hunt things larger and more dangerous than themselves. When the massive fortress ship finally exploded, the blast was visible from the surface of Kaltos Prime. Admiral Stone's fleet had paid a terrible price, but they had eliminated the Ravok Empire's ultimate weapon and broken their ability to threaten anyone ever again. Ambassador Vexstar watched the space battle from his bunker and finally understood what his desperate call for help had summoned to their peaceful corner of the galaxy. Humans were not just willing to fight impossible odds. They preferred them because victory against overwhelming enemies was the only type of victory worth achieving. The war ended not with negotiation or compromise, but with the complete destruction of Ravok military power. Surviving enemy forces fled, in terror, carrying stories that would make future aggressors think twice before threatening innocent civilians. Humanity had found its purpose among the stars as the Guardians, who answered desperate calls for help with overwhelming force applied in the service of justice itself. Captain Vex stood on the bridge of the Coalition cruiser Harmony's Edge and watched the stars flicker on the main screen. His blue skin had turned pale with worry as another distress signal came through the communications array. The Third Coalition fleet had gone silent just like the first two. Commander Tala rushed to his side with a datapad showing the latest reports. "Captain, we have confirmed destruction of Admiral Beck's entire battle group," Tala said in her soft voice. "The Crimson Horde used the same unknown weapon technology. Their ships just cut through our energy shields like they were made of paper." Vex closed his 4 eyes and felt his heart beating faster. The Alteran people had never known real war. They were explorers and diplomats who believed in peaceful solutions. But the Crimson Horde under Warlord Krax was different from any threat the galaxy had ever seen. These pirates did not want territory or resources. They wanted complete destruction. "How many ships did Krax lose in the attack?" Vex asked. "None, sir. Our scanners show the entire Horde fleet is still intact. Over 500 vessels moving toward the core systems." Tala replied. The bridge fell silent except for the humming of the ship's systems. Every officer knew what this meant. The Coalition had lost 3 full fleets without destroying even one enemy ship. Traditional weapons were useless against whatever technology the Horde possessed. "Send an emergency message to Coalition Command," Vex ordered. "Tell them we need every available ship from every member species. This is no longer about protecting trade routes or keeping peace. This is about survival." 3 hours later, a response came from the Coalition's Emergency Council. The message was simple but desperate. They would broadcast an open call for help to every known species in the galaxy, even the ones they had never contacted before. On Earth, Jake sat in the Deep Space Monitoring Station drinking his 3rd cup of coffee. The night shift was usually boring. Most signals from space were just natural phenomena or old probe transmissions. When the new signal came through, he almost deleted it without looking. The translation software kept giving strange results. "Another hoax, probably," Jake muttered as he ran the signal through the filters again, but something made him pause. The mathematical patterns were too complex for a fake message. The encryption was sophisticated beyond anything humans had developed. Jake called his supervisor, and 20 minutes later, the signal was being analyzed by the best linguists and scientists on Earth. Dr. Elena worked through the night breaking down the alien language. Each word that became clear made her more excited and more frightened. This was real contact with an advanced galactic civilization, but they were not calling to say hello. They were screaming for help. "The translation is complete," Elena announced, to the emergency meeting at Space Command headquarters. "It's a distress call from something called the Galactic Coalition. They're asking for any vessels capable of combat operations to rally at coordinates near the galaxy's core." Admiral Ross studied the decoded message on his tablet. His gray hair and weathered face showed the experience of 40 years in military service. He had prepared for this moment since humans first detected artificial signals from deep space. "What do we know about this coalition?" Ross asked. "Very little, sir. The message mentions dozens of species working together. They seem to be facing something called the Crimson Horde. From what we can understand, it's a massive pirate fleet that's been destroying entire star systems," Elena replied. "And they're asking us for help?" "They're asking everyone, sir. This appears to be a galaxy-wide emergency broadcast." Ross walked to the large window overlooking the spaceport where Earth's newest ships were docked. The Phantom was a sleek black destroyer designed for stealth operations. The Retribution was a massive battlecruiser built like a flying fortress. The Valkyrie was Earth's first true space carrier loaded with fighter craft and marine assault pods. "They probably think we're some primitive agricultural world," Ross said. "We've been monitoring their communications for years but never responded. They have no idea what we're capable of." "Sir, this could be humanity's first real test in galactic politics," Elena warned. "If we respond, there's no going back to hiding in our solar system." Ross thought about the secret shipyards hidden throughout the asteroid belt. For decades, Earth had been building a fleet while pretending to be a peaceful world of farmers and scientists. They had studied every alien transmission and learned about galactic technology and warfare. But everything they built was designed for one purpose: to survive first contact with hostile alien species. "Prep the 3 ships for immediate departure," Ross ordered. "Captain Nova will command the Phantom. Commander Blake takes the Retribution. Captain Lisa leads the Valkyrie. Full combat loadouts and maximum stealth protocols." "What are their orders, sir?" "Observe, assess, and if necessary, demonstrate why humans survived on a world full of predators." In the outer galaxy, Warlord Crack stood on the bridge of his flagship Devourer and watched his scouts report on coalition movements. The massive reptilian creature had scars covering his dark green scales from 1,000 battles. His cybernetic eye glowed red as it processed tactical data. "The Coalition is gathering ships at the Nexus Point," reported General Voss, his most trusted lieutenant. "Over 300 vessels from different species." "Let them come," Krax growled. "Our new weapons will turn their pretty ships into scrap metal, just like the others." "Should we attack immediately?" "No, let them all gather in one place. When we destroy this final fleet, every species in the galaxy will surrender rather than face the same fate." Krax looked at the strange device mounted in his ship's weapon bay. The plasma lance technology came from an ancient artifact his crews had discovered on a dead world. The previous owners were long extinct, but their weapons still functioned perfectly. No known shield could stop the focused energy beams. "Prepare the fleet for jump to the Nexus Point," Krax ordered. "We end this war in one battle." The 3 human ships left Earth's solar system using their quantum drives. Captain Nova watched the stars blur past on the Phantom's main screen. In a few hours, they would meet aliens for the first time. The galaxy would learn that Earth was not the helpless world it appeared to be. "All systems operating at peak efficiency," reported his tactical officer. "Stealth generators are online. The aliens won't see us coming." "Good. Remember our mission parameters. We observe first, then decide if these coalition species are worth saving." Behind them, the Retribution and Valkyrie followed in formation. Each ship carried weapons and tactics that the galaxy had never encountered. Human warfare was not about honor or glory. It was about winning at any cost. As the 3 ships raced toward an unknown fate, Admiral Ross sent one final encrypted message. To military commanders around Earth, Phase 1 was beginning. If the Coalition proved hostile, or if the Crimson Horde was too dangerous, the rest of Earth's hidden fleet would be ready to respond. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their courage, it was their absolute refusal to fight fair. The Nexus Point was unlike anything the human crews had ever seen. Hundreds of alien ships floated in perfect formation around a massive space station. Each vessel was beautiful in its own way, with curved hulls that seemed more like art than military hardware. Bright colors and decorative elements covered their surfaces. Captain Nova studied the alien fleet through the Phantom's advanced scanners. "They build their ships like floating palaces," observed Lieutenant Miller, the tactical officer. "Look at those energy signatures. Most of their power goes to life support and comfort systems instead of weapons or armor. They've never had to fight for survival," Nova replied. "These species developed in a peaceful galaxy. They don't understand real warfare." The Retribution and Valkyrie took positions near the edge of the alien formation. Their dark, angular hulls looked like predators among a flock of colorful birds. Every surface on the human ship served a military purpose. No decorations, no wasted space. No consideration for anything except combat effectiveness. Admiral Keth of the Coalition fleet contacted the human ships from his flagship. The Veltar commander appeared on the communication screen with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. His species evolved on a peaceful world where cooperation was necessary for survival. "Welcome, vessels from the Sol System," Keth said and translated. Speech: "We are grateful that you answered our call for assistance. Your ships have interesting designs. We have never seen such aggressive architecture." "Thank you for the invitation," Captain Nova replied. "We're here to assess the situation and determine how we can help. Please dock with our command station. For a strategic briefing, we will share all available intelligence about the Crimson Horde threat." 2 hours later, the human commanders sat in the Coalition's meeting room surrounded by representatives from dozens of alien species. The room was designed for diplomacy with comfortable seating and calming colors. Natural lighting simulated the homeworlds of various species. Dr. Marcus from the Valkyrie took notes on each alien type they encountered. Commander Blake from the Retribution spoke first. His gruff voice and direct manner clearly made some aliens uncomfortable. "Show us the tactical data from your previous engagements with this Crimson Horde," Blake demanded. Diplomat Zara, a graceful being with silver skin and 4 arms, gestured toward a holographic display. "We have recordings from all 3 battles. Please understand that the Coalition military doctrine emphasizes minimizing casualties on both sides. We attempt to disable enemy vessels rather than destroy them." The hologram showed Coalition ships firing precise energy beams at specific targets on pirate vessels. They aimed for weapon systems and engines while avoiding crew areas. The Crimson Horde responded with devastating plasma lances that cut completely through Coalition ships. "You're fighting to wound while they're fighting to kill," Blake said. Flatly, "That's why you're losing." "We believe in the value of all life," Admiral Keth replied. "Even our enemies deserve the chance to surrender and reform." "Has anyone in this Crimson Horde ever surrendered?" asked Captain Lisa from the Valkyrie. "Well, no. But we maintain hope that peaceful resolution is possible." Dr. Marcus leaned forward in his chair. "Tell us about your weapon capabilities." "What's the maximum destructive power of your fleet?" "Destructive power?" Zara looked confused. "Our weapons are designed for precision and control. We can disable any ship without harming the crew inside." "What about planetary bombardment capabilities?" Marcus continued. The aliens looked horrified. "Why would anyone attack a planet? That would kill millions of innocent civilians." "Sometimes you have to destroy enemy infrastructure to win a war," Blake explained. "Cut off their supply lines, eliminate their production facilities, force them to surrender." Admiral Keth's voice became strained. "Your species has some disturbing concepts about warfare. Do humans regularly engage in planetary destruction?" "Only when necessary," Nova said calmly. "We call it total war. You fight to win completely or you lose everything." Dr. Marcus opened his tablet and showed images from human military history. "These are examples of our conventional weapons. nuclear bombs, biological warfare agents, kinetic bombardment systems. We also developed cyber warfare, economic warfare, and psychological operations. The alien representatives stared at the images in shocked silence. Diplomat Zara's 4 hands trembled as she spoke. Your species developed weapons of mass destruction before achieving interstellar travel? How did you survive your own technological advancement? Barely, Marcus admitted. We almost destroyed ourselves several times. But we learned that if you want peace, you must be prepared for war. The meeting was interrupted by urgent alarms throughout the station. A coalition scout ship had detected massive energy signatures approaching the system. Long-range sensors showed over 500 vessels dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge. Admiral Keth stood quickly. The Crimson Horde has found. U.S. All ships prepare for defensive operations according to Protocol 7. What's Protocol 7? Commander Blake asked. Organized retreat to predetermined fallback positions. We evacuate civilian vessels first, then military ships withdraw in good order. You're planning to run away? Blake sounded incredulous. We preserve our forces for future engagements. Fighting a superior enemy is wasteful and illogical. Captain. Nova studied the tactical display showing the approaching Horde fleet. The enemy ships were darker and more aggressive than coalition vessels, but they still followed predictable formation patterns. They're using standard attack formations, Nova observed. Frontal assault with heavy ships leading and lighter vessels providing support. Very conventional. How is that relevant? Admiral Keth asked. Because conventional tactics have conventional counters. We don't have to run from this fight. The main screen activated to show a transmission from the Crimson Horde flagship. Warlord. Krax appeared in all his terrifying glory. His massive reptilian form was covered in battle scars and cybernetic enhancements. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding metal. Coalition weaklings. I am Warlord Krax of the Crimson Horde. You have 1 hour to surrender your ships and submit to our rule. Those who comply will serve as slaves. Those who resist will be destroyed along with any worlds that supported them. The transmission ended and Admiral Keth immediately began issuing retreat orders. But the 3 human captains were already planning something very different. Admiral Keth, Nova called out. Request permission to take point position in the defensive formation. That's not necessary. Our evacuation will begin immediately. With respect, sir, we didn't travel across the galaxy to watch you run away. Give us tactical command and we'll show you how humans handle bullies. Commander Blake was already reviewing weapon systems on the Retribution. We need to know everything about their plasma lance technology. Range, power consumption, targeting. Systems. Dr. Marcus was analyzing the enemy formation. Their ships are built for frontal assault. They probably have heavy armor forward and lighter protection on the sides and rear. Are you seriously considering fighting 500 ships with 3? Diplomat Zara asked in disbelief. We're considering winning, Captain Lisa replied. The question is whether you want to help or just watch. Admiral Keth looked at the human commanders with new understanding. These beings from a small world at the edge of the galaxy were not planning to flee or hide. They were planning to attack. What do you need from us? Keth asked quietly. Stay out of our way and be ready to mop up survivors, Blake answered. The Crimson Horde continued its approach toward the Nexus Point. Warlord Krax expected to see coalition ships scattering in panic like before. Instead, his sensors detected 3 unknown vessels moving into aggressive attack positions. General Voss, what are those ships doing? Krax demanded. Unknown, my lord. Their energy signatures don't match any coalition design. They appear to be moving toward us instead of retreating. Fools, they will learn the power of our weapons soon enough. But something about the human ships troubled Krax. They moved with predatory grace and showed no fear of overwhelming odds. For the first time in years, the warlord felt a small doubt about the coming battle. The Crimson Horde advanced in perfect formation across the void of space. 500 warships moved like a dark wave toward the coalition fleet. Warlord Crax stood on the bridge of his flagship Devourer, watching his enemies prepare for what he believed would be another easy victory. Range to target? Crax asked his weapons officer. 15 minutes to optimal plasma lance distance, my lord, came the reply. Excellent. Begin charging all weapon systems. Today we end this coalition rebellion once and for all. At the nexus point, Admiral Keth watched the human ships take positions that made no tactical sense. The Phantom had completely disappeared from all sensors. The Retribution was moving into what appeared to be a suicidal frontal attack position. The Valkyrie hung back behind the coalition fleet like it was afraid to fight. Captain Nova, what is your tactical plan? Keth asked over the communication channel. Trust us, came Nova's simple reply. Commander Blake spoke from the Retribution's bridge. All coalition ships fall back to minimum safe distance. Things are about to get interesting. Dr. Marcus aboard the Valkyrie was coordinating with both other human vessels. Phantom is in position. Retribution has target lock. Valkyrie drones are ready for launch. What are drones? Asked Diplomat Zara, who was monitoring the human communications. You'll see, Marcus replied. The Crimson Horde reached weapons range and immediately opened fire. Dozens of plasma lances shot through space like burning spears. The coalition ships that remained in the battle zone took devastating hits. Their energy shields flickered and failed under the intense bombardment. 2 coalition cruisers exploded completely while others drifted helplessly with massive hull breaches, but the Retribution charged straight into the enemy fire. Plasma beams struck its armored hull and created glowing scars across the dark metal. Instead of penetrating completely, like they did with coalition ships, the beams were absorbed and redirected by human armor design. The battlecruiser kept advancing despite taking enough damage to destroy any alien vessel. How is that ship still functional? General Voss asked from his position aboard the Horde fleet. Unknown. Their armor appears to be designed differently than coalition technology. His tactical officer replied. Warlord Crax studied the approaching human ship with growing interest. They build for survival instead of comfort. These are real warriors. The Retribution reached close combat range and opened fire with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Instead of energy beams, it launched solid projectiles at incredible speed. Tungsten rods accelerated by magnetic fields punched through Horde ships like bullets through paper. The kinetic impact was so powerful that entire vessels split in half. What kind of primitive weapon is that? Voss demanded. Kinetic bombardment, his science officer reported. Pure physics. No energy shields can stop solid matter moving at those velocities. But the real surprise came from behind the Horde formation. The Phantom materialized out of empty space directly behind Crax's flagship. Captain Nova had used stealth technology to position his ship where no enemy expected an attack. Impossible, Crax roared. No ship can hide from our sensors. My lord, the vessel is launching some kind of assault pods, his tactical officer reported. The Phantom fired a dozen boarding pods at the Devourer's hull. Each pod contained human marines in powered armor designed for ship-to-ship combat. Lieutenant Cole led the first squad through the breach they created in the enemy hull. The pirates inside the ship had never faced boarders before. Their internal defenses were designed to prevent mutant repel invasion. The human marines moved through the corridors with deadly efficiency, using weapons and tactics that the galaxy had never developed. Seal all passages to the bridge, Crax ordered. Send security teams to repel the boarders. But the human marines were not following normal boarding procedures. Instead of trying to capture key locations, they were systematically destroying critical ship systems. Power conduits, life support, weapon controls, everything needed to keep the massive vessel functioning. Meanwhile, the Valkyrie had begun its own attack. Instead of engaging enemy ships directly, it launched clouds of small fighter craft. But these were not normal fighters with alien pilots. They were automated drones controlled by artificial intelligence systems. Each drone was programmed with one mission: destroy its target regardless of consequences. They flew in perfect coordination, sharing tactical data and adapting to enemy responses in real time. When Horde fighters tried to engage them in traditional dogfights, the drones simply rammed their targets and exploded. "They're suicide fighters," reported one Horde pilot before his ship was destroyed by 3 drones. Attacking simultaneously, General Voss watched his fighter squadrons being systematically eliminated by enemies that showed no fear and felt no pain. "How do we fight opponents who don't care about survival?" "You don't," came a transmission from one of the human ships. "You surrender or you die?" Admiral Keth observed the battle from the Coalition command station with growing amazement. In 15 minutes, the humans had destroyed over 50 Horde vessels and severely damaged dozens more. Their tactics were unlike anything in galactic military doctrine. "They're not trying to disable the enemy ships," Diplomat Zara said with horror. "They're completely destroying them." "That's the point," Dr. Marcus explained over the communication channel. "Dead enemies can't fight back. Disabled enemies can repair their ships and return later." The boarding action aboard the Devourer continued as Lieutenant Cole's Marines fought their way toward the bridge. The pirates they encountered were tough fighters, but they were not prepared for human combat techniques. The Marines used explosives, automatic weapons, and coordinated team tactics that overwhelmed individual opponents. "Sir, the humans are 50 meters from the bridge," reported Krax's security chief. "Our defenses can't stop them." "Then we make our final stand here," Krax declared. "Prepare for honorable combat." But when the human Marines breached the bridge doors, they did not engage in honorable single combat. They used flashbang grenades to disorient the defenders, then moved in with overwhelming firepower. Krax found himself facing 5 armored humans with weapons aimed at his head. "Surrender now and you will be taken prisoner," Lieutenant Cole announced through his helmet speakers. "Resist and you will be eliminated." "I am Warlord Krax. I do not surrender to anyone." "Then you die," Cole replied simply. But before the Marines could fire, Krax made a desperate decision. His hand reached for a control panel that would activate his ship's ultimate weapon. If he was going to lose this battle, he would make sure his enemies paid the ultimate price. "If I cannot have victory, then all will burn," Krax declared as he activated the stellar cascade generator throughout the battlefield. Every ship's sensors detected the massive energy buildup. The ancient weapon began drawing power directly from the system's star, preparing to trigger a chain reaction that would create a supernova. "Admiral," Keth's voice came over all communication channels in panic. "All ships retreat immediately. The enemy has activated a star-killer weapon." But instead of retreating, the 3 human ships began moving closer to the source of the expanding energy field. Captain Nova spoke calmly to his crew as they flew toward certain death. "All hands, prepare for emergency containment protocols. We're going to stop this thing before it destroys the entire system." "Sir, that's impossible," his science officer reported. "No known technology can stop a stellar cascade once it begins." "Then we'll have to create some new technology," Nova replied. "That's what humans do best." The energy cascade continued building power as both fleets watched helplessly. In 18 minutes, the reaction would become irreversible and the star would explode. But the 3 human ships were moving toward the growing anomaly with what appeared to be a suicide plan. Warlord Krax laughed bitterly from his captured bridge. "You cannot stop the cascade, humans. Your courage will only ensure you die with the rest of us." "Watch us," Lieutenant Cole replied as his Marines prepared for the most dangerous mission in human history. The stellar cascade generator sent shockwaves through space that every ship could feel in their hull plating. The ancient weapon was drawing energy directly from the star's core, beginning a chain reaction that would turn the entire system into a supernova. Admiral Keth immediately ordered the Coalition fleet to retreat to minimum safe distance. "All vessels withdraw to jump coordinates," Keth broadcast. "Estimated time to cascade completion is 17 minutes. We must evacuate immediately." But the 3 human ships ignored the retreat order and accelerated toward the growing energy anomaly. Captain Nova studied the readings on his tactical display as the Phantom raced through space filled with deadly radiation. Chief Engineer Davis, can we modify our quantum drive to generate a containment field? Nova asked. Theoretically possible, sir, but it would require overloading every system on the ship. We'd essentially turn ourselves into a bomb, Davis replied from the Valkyrie. Do it. Commander Blake, I need the retribution to provide kinetic bombardment of the Cascade device, maximum impact rounds. Blake's voice came through with static as the energy interference increased. Copy that. Loading tungsten penetrators with maximum charge. But Nova, we're going to have to get dangerously close to that thing. Dr. Marcus worked frantically at his station aboard the Valkyrie, calculating the energy patterns of the Cascade. Reaction. The device is using Harbinger technology. This is tech from the race that nearly destroyed the galaxy before they went extinct. How do you know that? Nova asked. Because I've been studying theoretical physics for 20 years and I recognize the energy signature from ancient texts. The Harbingers built weapons designed to exterminate entire star systems. Lieutenant Cole's Marines were still fighting their way through the Devourer, while the ship shook from the Cascade's growing power. Warlord Krax had been captured, but his crew was activating additional defensive measures throughout the massive vessel. Sir, we've secured the primary control room, but the Cascade device has automated defenses, Cole reported. The pirates can't shut it down even if they wanted to. Then we stop it ourselves. Nova replied. Admiral Keth watched the human ships from the safety of the Coalition retreat position. Diplomat Zara stood beside him with her 4 hands pressed against the viewing port. They're flying directly into a stellar cascade, she said in disbelief. That level of radiation will kill them in minutes. Their ships are more heavily shielded than ours, Keth observed. But no amount of armor can protect against that much energy. Then why are they doing it? Because they're humans. They don't think about what's impossible. They only think about what needs to be done. The Retribution reached optimal firing position and began its bombardment of the Cascade device. Tungsten rods, accelerated to near-light speed, struck the ancient weapon with tremendous force. Each impact created massive explosions that lit up the darkness of space. Direct hits confirmed, Blake reported. But the device is still active. The impacts are actually destabilizing the Cascade in unpredictable ways. Keep firing, Nova ordered. We need to disrupt the energy flow even if we can't destroy the device completely. Chief Engineer Davis had jury-rigged the Valkyrie's quantum drive into something no human had ever attempted before. By reversing the field generators and overloading the power core, he was creating an artificial gravity well that could theoretically contain the Cascade's energy. Field generators at maximum power, Davis reported. But sir, if this doesn't work, the feedback will vaporize our ship instantly. If this doesn't work, the supernova will vaporize everything in 100 light-year radius, Captain Lisa replied. Take the shot. The Valkyrie's modified drive activated and space itself began to bend around the stellar cascade. The artificial gravity well pulled at the expanding energy, trying to force it back into a controlled pattern. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship as systems began failing under the incredible strain. Dr. Marcus monitored the cascade's energy patterns and saw something that made his blood run cold. The Harbinger device isn't just triggering a supernova. It's creating a rift in space-time itself. If we can't stop it, the explosion will tear holes between dimensions. Meaning what exactly? Nova demanded. Meaning whatever destroyed the Harbingers might come through those rifts. We're not just looking at the end of this star system. We're looking at the return of something that nearly ended all life in the galaxy. The energy cascade reached critical mass and began expanding faster than light itself. Reality started breaking down around the ancient weapon as space and time bent under impossible forces. The remaining Crimson Horde ships were vaporized instantly by the expanding wave. Lieutenant Cole and his Marines fought their way to the Devourer's engineering section where they found the control systems for the ship's power core. If they could overload the pirate flagship's reactor at precisely the right moment, they might be able to disrupt the cascade's energy pattern. Set charges on all power conduits, Cole ordered his team. We're going to turn this ship into the galaxy's biggest explosive device. Sir, that will definitely kill us, Sergeant Park pointed out. Better than letting that thing tear holes in reality, Cole replied, Warlord Cracks. Watched the human Marines prepare their suicide mission with a mixture of respect and horror. His own crew had abandoned him when the cascade began, but these aliens were still fighting to save a galaxy that barely knew they existed. Why do you sacrifice yourselves for strangers? Cracks asked. Because someone has to, Cole answered as he armed the explosive charges. The Phantom stealth systems failed completely as the cascade's energy interfered with every electronic system. Captain Nova found himself flying blind through a storm of radiation that was tearing his ship apart piece by piece. Hull integrity at 30%, reported his tactical officer. Life support failing, we need to evacuate. Negative. Maintain position until the Valkyrie completes containment. Nova ordered. The artificial gravity well was working, but barely. The cascade's energy was fighting against the containment field like a wild animal in a cage. Every second they held, it cost them more power and brought them closer to total system failure. Field generators at critical overload, Davis reported. I can't hold this much longer. Just a few more seconds, Dr. Marcus called out. The energy pattern is starting to stabilize. But then the Cascade device activated its final defense protocol. Ancient Harbinger technology came online that had been dormant for millions of years. Weapon systems that could destroy planets began targeting the 3 human ships. Multiple hostile contacts, Blake announced from the Retribution. The device is defending itself with automated weapon systems. Energy beams more powerful than anything the galaxy possessed shot through space toward the human vessels. The Phantom took a direct hit that punched completely through its hull. The Retribution's armor absorbed several strikes but began glowing white-hot from the impact. All ships, this is Admiral Ross from Earth, came a transmission that surprised. Everyone, additional human vessels are en route to your position. On the long-range sensors, dozens of new contacts appeared at the edge of the system. Earth's hidden fleet was finally revealing itself to the galaxy. Ships that had been built in secret for decades were racing to join the battle, but they would not arrive in time. The stellar cascade was seconds away from becoming irreversible. The 3 human ships were being torn apart by ancient weapons. And somewhere in the chaos, Lieutenant Cole was about to detonate the most powerful explosive device in galactic history. Warlord. Cracks looked at the human Marine who was prepared to die to save his enemies. Your species is insane, he said with something that might have been admiration. Probably, Cole agreed as he pressed the detonation switch. But we're also really hard to kill. The Devourer exploded with the force of a small star going nova. The explosion disrupted the Cascade's energy flow at precisely the moment when the Valkyrie's containment field reached maximum power. Space itself seemed to scream as reality bent and twisted around forces that should not exist. Admiral Keth watched from the Coalition fleet as 3 human ships disappeared into an explosion that lit up the entire system. When the light faded, there was only empty space where heroes had made their final stand, but then Dr. Marcus's voice came through the static, weak but alive. Cascade contained, threat neutralized, human fleet casualties, significant but manageable. The impossible had happened. Somehow, 3 ships from a small world at the edge of the galaxy had stopped a weapon that could have destroyed everything. The explosion of the Devourer created a shockwave that rippled through space-time itself. For several minutes, the area where the stellar cascade had been building was hidden behind clouds of superheated plasma and twisted reality, every sensor. And the system was blind to what had happened to the 3 human ships. Admiral Keth stared at the tactical display showing nothing but energy static, where heroes had made their last stand. The Coalition fleet maintained position at minimum safe distance, waiting to see if the cascade had been truly stopped, or if they were all about to die in a supernova explosion. Sir, we're detecting communication signals from the plasma cloud, reported his tactical officer. On speakers, Keth ordered immediately. Dr. Marcus's voice came through weak but unmistakably alive. Coalition Command, this is Valkyrie. Stellar Cascade has been successfully contained. The star's fusion reaction is returning to normal parameters. Cheers erupted throughout the coalition fleet. Diplomat Zara's 4 hands pressed against her chest in relief while dozens of alien species celebrated humanity's impossible victory. "What's your status, Valkyrie?" Keth asked urgently. "We're hurt but functional. The Phantom took severe damage, but Captain Nova's crew managed emergency repairs. The Retribution is operating at 60% capacity. We lost Lieutenant Cole and his Marine squad when the Devourer exploded." The celebration aboard the Coalition ships became more subdued as they realized the cost of victory. But then another voice came through the communication array, one that shocked everyone who heard it. "Actually, we're still here, Lieutenant," Cole announced. "Turns out these Harbinger devices have built-in escape pods. We managed to get clear before the explosion." "How is that possible?" Nova asked from the damaged Phantom. "The Warlord showed us. Apparently even the pirates who built that weapon were smart enough to include emergent systems. Krax is with us, by the way, still our prisoner." As the plasma clouds cleared, the 3 human ships became visible again. They were battered and scarred, but still operational. More importantly, they had accomplished something the galaxy thought impossible. They had stopped a Harbinger weapon that could have destroyed entire star systems. But the real surprise came when Admiral Ross's reinforcement fleet arrived at the edge of the system. What had appeared to be dozens of ships on long-range sensors was actually over 200 vessels of various sizes and configurations. Earth had been building a massive space navy in secret while pretending to be a peaceful agricultural world. "Coalition Command, this is Admiral Ross of the Earth Defense Fleet," came the transmission from the flagship Endeavor. "We received the emergency signals and came as quickly as possible. Looks like our advance team handled the situation." Admiral Keth looked at the display showing more human warships than the entire coalition had ever assembled. "Admiral Ross? We were not aware that Earth possessed such a large military force." "We've been monitoring galactic communications for decades," Ross replied. "We knew this day would come eventually. When you're a new species in a dangerous galaxy, you prepare for the worst and hope for the best." Dr. Marcus was analyzing the remains of the Stellar Cascade device with fascination and growing concern. "Admiral, you need to see this data. The Harbinger weapon wasn't just a star killer. It was designed to open rifts between dimensions." "Meaning?" "What exactly?" "Meaning the Harbingers didn't go extinct. They left this galaxy and sealed the door behind them. That weapon would have reopened the passage." Captain Nova's voice came through from the Phantom. "Are you saying we just prevented an invasion from another dimension?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. The Crimson Horde found one Harbinger device, but there are probably more scattered throughout the galaxy. Whoever the Harbingers were running from might still be out there." Warlord Krax, now in human custody aboard Lieutenant Cole's captured escape pod, provided additional information that chilled everyone who heard it. "My crews found the weapon on a dead world in the Outer Rim. There were others like it, but we could only move one device at a time." "How many others?" Admiral Ross demanded. "At least a dozen." "Maybe more. The entire planet was covered in Harbinger ruins." The implications were staggering. The galaxy faced not just one superweapon, but an entire arsenal of devices that could tear holes in reality itself. The coalition forces that had struggled against conventional pirates were completely unprepared for threats of this magnitude. "This changes everything," Admiral Keth said quietly. "We need to find and secure those weapons before other hostile forces discover them." "Agreed," Ross replied. "Earth is prepared to assist in this effort. We've been studying theoretical physics and advanced weaponry for decades in preparation for exactly this kind of threat." Diplomat Zara spoke for the first time since the battle ended. "On behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I formally request that Earth join our alliance. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that we desperately need." "We accept," Ross answered. "Immediately. But we do things our way. No more fighting to wound, no more hoping enemies will surrender. When we face threats like the Harbingers, we eliminate them completely." The coalition representatives looked uncomfortable with such harsh language, but they could not argue with results. 3 human ships had accomplished what their entire military could not. Over the following hours, human rescue teams worked to save survivors from the destroyed Crimson Horde vessels. It was a concept that puzzled both pirates and coalition forces. Humans fought with ruthless efficiency, but they also showed mercy to defeated enemies. "Why do you save us?" asked one injured pirate as human medics treated his wounds. "Because the war is over," Sergeant Park explained. "You lost. Now you get to choose whether you want to be a prisoner or join the fight against the real enemy." Many of the surviving pirates chose to cooperate once they learned about the Harbinger threat. The galaxy faced something far more dangerous than territorial disputes or resource conflicts. Reality itself was under attack. Captain Nova stood on the repaired bridge of the Phantom and watched Earth's fleet take defensive positions throughout the system. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and gas giant clouds for decades were finally revealing themselves to the galaxy. "Admiral Ross, what's our next move?" Nova asked. "We secure the remaining Harbinger devices and prepare for whatever comes next. The Coalition has technology we need, and we have military experience they lack. Together we might be able to survive what's coming." Dr. Marcus had spent hours analyzing the energy patterns from the stellar cascade. His conclusion was both encouraging and terrifying. The dimensional rift the weapon was trying to create had a specific destination. Somewhere outside our galaxy, something was waiting for the door to open. "Any idea what?" Ross asked. "Based on the energy signatures, I'd say something that makes the Harbingers look peaceful. Whatever they were running from must be truly horrific." The final revelation came when Lieutenant Cole's team examined Warlord Krax's personal files. Aboard the captured Devourer, the pirate leader had not been randomly raiding systems. He had been searching for something specific, a map showing the locations of all Harbinger installations. He wasn't just a warlord, Cole reported. He was working for someone else. Someone who wanted those weapons activated. "Any idea who?" Admiral Ross asked. "The files are encrypted, but we're working on it. What I can tell you is that this whole thing was planned. The Crimson Horde was just the opening move in a much larger game." Ambassador Helena, Earth's first official representative to the Galactic Coalition, concluded her address to the emergency session with words that would reshape galactic politics forever. "Humanity offers our protection to any species willing to stand against the return of the Harbingers. We've spent our entire history learning how to survive against impossible odds. Now we're ready to teach the galaxy what we've learned." Admiral Keth looked at the human representative with new understanding. Earth was not joining the Coalition as a junior partner. They were taking leadership of an alliance that would need to fight for the survival of all life in the galaxy. "What do you need from us?" Kef asked. "Everything," Helena replied. "Your science, your resources, your people. Because when the real enemy arrives, we're going to need every advantage we can get." As the combined human and coalition fleets prepared to hunt down the remaining Harbinger weapons, signals from deep space began reaching the galaxy's edge. Someone or something had detected the energy signatures from the failed cascade. Across the vast emptiness between galaxies, ancient sensors registered that a door had almost opened. The Watchers in the void began making preparations for a journey they had delayed for millions of years. The hunt for the Harbingers would soon resume, and this time they would not stop until every trace of their ancient enemies was eliminated, along with anyone foolish enough to ally with them. But they had not counted on humanity's greatest strength: the absolute refusal to surrender even when facing impossible odds. The galaxy was about to discover that humans did not just survive against superior enemies. They found ways to win.